Hello, good evening, and welcome to Tea with the Druid 71. And it's a lovely, well, it's not that lovely, it's quite cold actually, but I moved the camera slightly so you can see the trees outside. It just shows how different it is. Often it's dark outside, but now as we get towards the summer, it's still light. So I hope this broadcast finds you in good form, and lovely to see people arriving in the circle now, gathering by the trees, and hello from France. And where are you, Kika Krisova? Which country are you in at the moment? That would be interesting to know. And Brian and Jamesina and Brianna and Linda and Feniril from the Netherlands, Tara, Nova Scotia, Beth Amos from Abruzzo. So lovely to see you. So what I tell you, sometimes the idea for these talks comes straight away, and just for whatever reason, the idea came to me straight away, which is this phrase, the devil is in the detail. And I remembered too that we also talk about God being in the detail. God is in the detail. The devil is in the detail. Which one is it going to be? And when you think about the phrase, the devil is in the detail, it immediately brings you into the world of politics, of property, finances, business, where a slight change in one clause on page 27 of the contract means that you stand to lose everything or whatever if such and such happens. So what you need to cover yourself is a lawyer. Your ally is a lawyer. And this might explain why lawyers have such a kind of kudos and such a mystique about them. Whereas actually, I suspect a lot of law is really quite pedestrian and detailed. Detailed, exactly. And for many of us, it's too focused and too detailed, which is why we pay somebody else to do it for us and to train in it. But switch then from our knowledge that the devil can indeed be in the detail to this other phrase, God is in the detail. I tried to Google in preparation for this why we have these two very different idioms, and I couldn't find an explanation. If you find an explanation, do please tell me why we sometimes talk about God being in the detail and sometimes the devil in the detail. And what that evokes for me immediately is the detail of nature. You know, the way when you look at trees, and the intricacy, the detail in the leaves can bring us to a sense of the numinous, of the sacred, of deity, the hand of deity, the mind of deity, if you like. And when we follow the path of a nature spirituality, I believe we're following this track of focusing on the detail and really learning to be inspired by it and to notice it. There's been a way in which this simple truth, I think, has been we've tended not to focus on it because of, I mean, if we need to find somebody to blame, let's blame somebody. Let's blame Hollywood and television. There's a way in which we need, it's the dynamic is for bigger and bigger stories, the biggest heist, rather than the simple story of something being, one small thing being stolen. It has to have things being blown up and police cars chasing, the big story. And what it leads to in the end, whilst it seems harmless entertainment, I think what it leads to, see if you agree with me about this, but it leads us to devalue our own lives because our lives seem too small. It's when you compare yourself to the stories on the screen, it's like they're not big enough. And so we're always going for the the big things. But with wisdom and with following the spiritual path, there comes this appreciation for the detail in life, the small stories, because it's in this smallness that you get the intimacies. If you think of why you love somebody, for instance, often it can be these funny little details, like there's just something about their hands. There's the way you say that phrase. There's a particular thing that you do that just makes me love you. A little detail. There's the gestalt, there's the whole, there's the sense of the whole, you know, this idea of the gestalt, which is the whole. But also just as important, perhaps more important, is the detail. Which is why when we go somewhere where there's been a lot of attention to detail, whether that's you stay in a hotel, you have a meal in a restaurant, you look at a painting, whatever it is, and there's real attention to detail, I think we appreciate it. And all we need to do with that, if you think about it, is, okay, so there's all this detail around us. It's all about noticing what we notice. There's a little detail in sophrology, this mind-body training system that interests me so much. It's based on four mindful attitudes, if you like. And one of the attitudes is just noticing. And you think, gosh, there's 4 principles. And one is just this simple principle of noticing. And you think, that doesn't sound like a big deal. But in fact, it's everything. If you look at the Buddha's early teachings on meditation, and he says, just go and sit in a forest, sit under a tree and notice your breath. So just noticing is everything. And then, of course, you notice how when you become pregnant, as has happened to me a number of times, or when you buy a certain kind of car, start reading a certain kind of book, you start to notice other people who are pregnant. You suddenly notice, gosh, the whole of Lewis is pregnant. Or you change the model of your car and suddenly everybody seems to be driving VWs. And it's just because you've started to notice, your attention has switched. Pat Booker says it is soul-crushingly mundane and detailed. I think you're talking about the law, Pat, I hope. Yes. So what I'm saying here really is that it seems to me that a great gift of a spiritual teaching is to encourage us to focus on the details and on the small things, not on the big things. There's a wonderful series of 3 films. The three colors red, 3 colors blue, and 3 colors white by a Czech director, Krzysztof Kieślowski, I think. And I was very interested in these films, and I watched a documentary where he talked about how David Connolly mentions losing the environmental lawyer last week, Polly Higgins. She was fantastic. Well, interesting you say that, David. So as an aside, I've just been watching Polly talking on the Time of the Six Sons videos. And I'm very impressed by the way she talks about the law, but she talks about it completely kind of in a live way, in a different way than the ones used to. It's beautiful. It's lovely. Really going for the key concepts, and the overarching views and the philosophy. So in this the Czech director, he talked about how in his filmmaking, he would home in on a particular detail. And once you know this, you can watch the films and see this. He'll say how, if you want to make a good film, focus in. And he gives an example of watching somebody putting their sugar cube in a coffee and slowly dissolving the sugar cube in the coffee during the pace of the film. And you might think that that is too slow or too detailed a detail to put in a film, but it's not at all. It works absolutely perfectly. And the great liberation for us, I think, when we get this, is that we don't have to be looking for something bigger, than what we've already got, because the detail is everywhere we go. And so we can focus in on this. And this way in which the very small things can make big changes. If you think about it as an example, when a boat is leaving its harbor in Europe, going towards America, a tiny shift will result in it landing in South America instead of North America. Just a small change in direction. And so we can actually take this idea and use it in our lives, I think, to focus on the small things and help them to affect what ultimately may be big changes. So let's go with this idea in a meditation. Rob Candell is saying Satan simply refers to the adversary. Unforeseen consequences generally arise from overlooked details. That's really nice, actually, because again, you can say, even if taking the idea of the devil is in the details, it's urging us to take notice, isn't it? If you think about it, these two apparently very different phrases, the devil is in the detail, God is in the detail, but they're both urging us to notice, to pay attention to the detail. And Angela Moore Duck, it seems we devalue our own lives, comparing them to everyday people. That's the big criticism of social media, isn't it? That everybody's life seems to be greater than our own. Philip Jackman said, I've spent 20 years wishing I was James Bond. God, yes, I know that feeling, that especially if you have curly hair. When I was a kid, I used to love those James Bond films, but they made me feel miserable because I could never get hair looking like Sean Connery. It was all straight and flat. So the path of details can perhaps lead us back to an appreciation of our own lives and to a valuing of our own lives and of the details in our lives. And we can use this. It's a really perfect topic for meditation. So let's have a little meditation now and work with this liberating, powerful idea. So here we are, sitting in front of our computers or our tablets all over the world, and there's a way in which, by closing our eyes, it's probably easier to concentrate, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And let's each of us become aware of entering a beautiful clearing in the forest, of already being there, just being in the light of the clearing. See what time of day you think it is, whether it's nighttime or daytime. For me, it's daytime. Just a kind of early morning light, very beautiful. But maybe for you it's different. And you become aware of the earth beneath you. And you allow your awareness of the earth to bring with it a sense of grounding and stability. Seated by a tree behind you, you sense the earth beneath you. You sense all the energy and the life in the earth, all the creatures in the earth. And you allow yourself for a moment just to sense the detail in the earth herself, the way that in just this small patch of ground where you're sitting, there is so much detail. All the creatures, the worms, the beetles, the soil and minerals, the moisture in the earth. And with every out-breath, you feel yourself becoming more settled on this earth. And as you breathe in the energy of the earth. You can smell the soil, its freshness. And now you can smell too the trees. If you tune in, you can smell the aroma coming from the trees. You sense their presence and their power. Our brothers and sisters, the trees around us. And you sense the trunks stretching up, the leaves and branches stretching out. And then you breathe in the energy of the sky. And the energy of the sky brings vitality into your body, into your aura, into your energy field. The energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of your being. And you close your inner eyes in the grove. And just focus on the breath for a few moments. Breathing in the energy of the trees, the energy of the sky, the energy of the earth. And then as an exercise, what you're going to do is just in a moment, is just open your inner eyes, the eyes of the imagination of the soul. Open them in the grove and allow your attention to rest wherever it is drawn, to whatever detail it's drawn to in the grove. And just spend a few moments appreciating where your attention rests in this clearing in the forest. So open your eyes now. And just allow yourself to really appreciate the detail. And if you can't see anything, just imagine you can. Just play with this and just imagine whatever you feel like looking at, a leaf or a bird or a patch of ground. And just allow this detail that you see to feed your soul. And just see if this works. See if you say to yourself, this is all I need at this moment. This is all I need. And then just focus on the detail. And then knowing that you can return to this meditation and come back to the sacred grove, to this clearing in the forest, to bask and bathe and focus on any detail you like. Now it's time to just gradually allow your awareness of the sacred grove to fade. Giving thanks, if it feels right, to whatever detail you perceived. Keeping the good feelings of calm, that they might have been generated within you. Keeping the good feelings and just coming back, gradually becoming aware of being seated in front of your computer or your tablet, fully present, here and now. And when you feel ready, you open your eyes. So it's great to read your comments. Somebody found a like the film Ben-Hur, where someone wears a watch. Of course, if you're into detail, being a continuity person on a movie set is great fun. Sammy, like Proust, of course, Sammy. Yes, the little Madeleine biscuit, the wonderful story. Yes. Kieslowski is actually Polish. Jan, I'm so sorry, he's Polish. All apologies. Yes, Charlie Farrow, you didn't complete your sentence. Please do. That would be very interesting. Somebody made a face in their coffee. I don't know whether that was in the meditation. If you had a coffee being served, I just made a face with the demerara sugar in the froth of my coffee. I assume you mean before meditating, Cindy. So that's lovely. So yes, nuance is in the details. Exactly. You can only have a nuanced understanding when you appreciate details. Carol has disillusioned me completely. She tells me that I don't think the hair alone makes you James Bond. I always thought if I could just fix my hair, I could be James Bond, but Carol is probably right. Yes. I saw a little wren, and of course that's perfect because the wren is Druid, the Druid bird. And that's really one of the teachings of the wren. It's a tiny little bird, this size, that is to appreciate the detail. Yes. Oh, all sorts of interesting messages here. Lovely. Christelle found herself falling asleep. So that's great. Oh, great comments. So there we go. What I like about this idea taught to us by the wren is that we don't need a lot. You know the phrase in the meditation where I said something like, see if taking on board the idea that this is all you need in this moment. Just in this moment, as you look at the tree, the tangle of tree roots, as Kirsty was, or the beautiful wrinkled bark of a huge linden tree, as Jan was, Anita seeing a grey standing stone, John a raindrop on parched earth, and so on, the bark of, So for me, looking at a little wren, that's all I needed. I didn't need anything else. I didn't need to be watching a movie. I didn't need to be making money. I didn't need to be jogging. Just that one thing. And it's a path of peace and clarity, I think, as well, and nuance, as someone said. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to make a drink and then come back and read your comments and have a lovely week as the week progresses. And I look forward, and thank you, Penny, for your lovely tea session last Monday. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. So au revoir, and it'll be Beltane soon. We're coming up to Beltane. In the Northern Hemisphere, and in the Southern Hemisphere, it is Samhain, the time of Samhain. Gosh, how different, and yet how strangely interlinked they are, as all the cross quarters are. Okay, lots of love, au revoir, and see you next week. Bye.